everyone, and welcome to the Wrestling Conversation. I am Brent West, along with Jack Lord. Rodney West will be talking about a lot of good things, wrestling-wise. Let's go back a little in history just for a second. I was starting to talk to Jack about this prior to that, and we got off. I think I had to go get a fan because it was hot in here, but Jack had said that he did not watch International Championship Wrestling. He's not seen any parts of that. Am I correct, Jack?
Right.
All right. I'll just tell you, you've not missed anything. So Rodney, International Championship Wrestling. We used to watch it. It used to come on in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I don't know what channel it came on, but we used to watch this program. Rodney, give me your thoughts.
This was a straight wrestling program. They did not promote any events, so it was very generic, and there was nobody really wrestling against anybody. It was just featuring different tag teams, such as the Mongols would be on there, Thunderbolt Patterson, Ernie Ladd would be on there occasionally, Mil Mascaras, but it was no ongoing feuds or anything like that. It was straight wrestling from beginning to end. That was mine.
Some bad wrestling. I mean, some bad matches. I watched about 3 hours of International Championship Wrestling. And we talk about professional wrestling today. That was some bad stuff back then. I mean, I watched Ox Baker have match that the guy wasn't even being hit. And I was, Mil Mascaras was the international World Heavyweight Champion. I believe that's what they called him, the International World Heavyweight Champion. He had a pretty good match with beautiful Bruce Swayze.
Beautiful Bruce. Tell Ole to call me.
Yeah, tell Ole to call me.
Tell Ole to call me.
Beautiful Bruce was not a bad wrestler. International Championship Wrestling, for those of you who have not watched it, go look it up. Put the IWA. I don't think it comes up as International Championship Wrestling. I think if you International Championship Wrestling, I think the Pafos Wrestling comes up, doesn't it?
It does.
So I think you have to do the International IWA and go watch that stuff. We talk about wrestling today. They were bad wrestling even back in the 70s. And you have to go back and watch this. Some bad stuff. Some bad put together matches, just some bad looking.
Who was the one that actually ran that? I never did.
Eddie Einhorn.
Okay.
He owned some type of I don't know. He was like a ball team owner or something.
Well, I know this show was syndicated through the United States because it played here in Chattanooga, but they never had live shows. And it seemed like every promotion sent talent or like thereof. Charlie Smith was on it at one point. I know that Nelson Royal was on there. Tex Mckenzie.
But let me ask you this question. I don't think they did send talent. And this is the reason I think they just worked for them. I think they were the outlaw group. And this is the reason I say this, because they were running a lot in North Carolina and South Carolina against Jim Crockett Promotions.
Well, that was a lost cause right there. I'll tell you right now.
He was the first promoter that's going to run the world.
Wow.
As he's seen, that did not work very good for him. But the show was just horrible. And I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, what's the guy's name? The cowboy. Jack, do you know what I'm talking about? Not Bob. Is it Bob Ellis?
Yeah, there was a cowboy Bob Ellis.
I don't think that was Bob Ellis. Tex Mckenzie. Tex Mckenzie was do the color commentary on there.
Yes.
All he wanted to do is joking on it. So there's no different today than whoever's
every bit as good on the mic.
Did you ever get the impression when you're watching? I mean, it was like I said, it was straight wrestling. There was doing nothing. They were doing nothing in the shows whatsoever. There was no rivalries whatsoever. Okay, so the thing about it is it looked like there was no leader. It looked like everybody was just going out there doing whatever they wanted to. Is that the way it come over to you?
I think so. I really, when I was watching this, I just thought to myself, man, we talk about wrestling today. Just go back and watch that. The younger guys would go, well, we don't do as bad as that. That was pretty bad stuff. Not everything was bad. Nelson Royal and whoever his partner was, and I can't remember who it was going against the Martells. And this, I guess one of the Martells might have been Rick Martell's brother. I'm thinking one of them were. They had a pretty decent match, and Nelson Royal was trying to put together the match so it makes sense, but like Martells didn't want to go for it. They was like, no, I don't want to make you look good. I just want to make myself look good in this match. And but anyway,
and it turned out no one looked good, right?
Yes,
that's the way it ended up. And this looked like to me, and if you watch the show, you'll see what I'm talking about. It looked like there was no direction. There was nobody in command. Or as like we call it, AEW.
Well, folks, please go see it. I just wanted to start this because I had watched them all week this week. It was there, and I thought I'd watch it. I'm kind of wishing I didn't. It was between that and the old Mid-Atlantic. I wish I would have just watched Mid-Atlantic wrestling, but that's the way everything transpired this week. Jack, tell us a little bit about Russell South. It took place Saturday night, Arab, Alabama Recreation Center.
Yeah, had a great turnout again. A really good show. We're coming back July the 10th. And, yep, Saturday, July the 10th. So
all right, that's about a month away.
Yep, and I am stacking the card. It's the
Stacking
greatest card to ever come to Arab, Alabama. Again.
One of the biggest cards you've ever signed.
Well, let's talk about that match right now. Don Kent here to talk about Russell South. Hey, I think Don Kent was trying to do Howard Cosell, wasn't he? I think that was his.
It's possible. I guess that's possible.
He had that down.
The most fun part of Saturday was me and Bobby Eaton riding around in my Mustang. And Bobby said, Jack, you're a single guy, aren't you? And I said, yeah, how'd you know? And he said, because us married guys don't get to drive these.
The old Mustang. I love the old Mustang. All right, let's go and see what everybody has to say. Let's see. Colton Martin said, how are you doing? Jack, how was your day?
It has been an interesting day. I ruffled some feathers.
Ooh.
Now, do tell. Whose feathers did you ruffle?
Well, there was a local promotion that shut down, and a lot of the talent were looking for places to go wrestle. So I reached out to a few and hired one. I may get another one. And then this young man wanted to know if I was interested. And I said, well, yeah, are you open for such and such date? I'd like to give you a chance. Now, this guy hadn't been wrestling a year. So he's never been anywhere but this one local show. And he responds back, yes, I'm available for that date. I only work babyface. I want $100 and I want $50 up front. And that did not go well for him. So now, and a friend of mine commented a while ago he was going to share my post about me having a bunch of haters today. And I said, get your own haters, buddy. I work for mine today.
That's right.
Well, it's very hard to ask for money when you've not really drew any money. It's kind of hard to do. And it's one thing it's a way of asking as well.
It really is, and that is really what hit me wrong. Yeah. I have never, ever, and y'all know this, you've experienced this, but you never tell a booker what you're going to work.
Yeah. No.
Your response is, I'm available. I'll do whatever you need. Can we talk about money? And then we'll talk about money. But,
yeah. I can see you getting upset about that. That would ruffle some. And a lot of these guys think they're worth more than they are. But I understand they want to get paid. I get that.
Oh yeah, we all want to get paid. Ain't nobody getting paid more than me, though. I can tell you that right now.
Hey, by the way, if y'all are going to make $20, I'm making $21.50. I'm telling you now. I'm going to think of that. If you're going to get paid more than we're getting paid on this show, you wouldn't have to be much. It'll be $1 more. You can get $1. You'll be happy to make that $1. Rick Brooks said, I was thinking of promotion George the Cry. Oh, I think I must have went past something real quick because it went down really quick. I'm sorry, guys.
We're getting a bunch of hits here.
Let me get back up to the top. Rick Brooks says, how is it going? Joe Hambley said, hey guys, how are y'all? We're doing good. Just don't watch go watch the IWA. You'll be all right. Some matches were good. Michael is with us. Michael, good evening, everyone.
If you want to see Bill Eadie before he was the superstar, that's the place to go. You will see the Mongols managed by, as he was saying, George Cannon on that particular program. So there's some stars or some wrestlers that you've probably never seen or haven't seen in a long time on that program.
Yeah, Bulldog Bob Brower is on there. I enjoyed seeing him because I never really got to see him. Tell me about that. Pampiro
Furpo.
Yeah, he was there. He was on there. Eighth wonder of the world is what they called him. He was all right. It's
an opportunity for you to see, but you also will see what happens when the wrestlers are running the show.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
And I'm not saying bad things about the wrestlers. They're just not people you would let run your show. You just don't. You just don't.
Well, you'll get a lot of
and you just don't.
Disqualifications. Too many disqualifications will kill your town. You cannot do that too often. You can do a disqualification. That's fine. But if you do like 6 and you have 6 matches, you got a problem.
And we've been to some of those shows.
Yes, we have.
Time limit draws and disqualifications.
I'm familiar with a show that does every match as a run-in. Every match.
Well, maybe they don't know finishes. Maybe they need finish me.
Well, the promoter's response to me when I questioned it was, well, these guys don't know how to pull it off. And I said, well, isn't it your job to teach them? And I was asked not to come back.
Oh, how rude.
I have been asked that several times myself not to come back. So I understand. And be honest with you, I didn't want to come back anyway.
Yeah.
But all right, Freddie, Chaplain Freddie Rooster Roper. Hello, guys. Hello to you. Yvonne Burns is with us from Western Pennsylvania. Brian Griffin said he loved international ICW. Is that
you're the one? I would probably like some of it too.
It's hit or miss. Like Rip found a match he liked. I love seeing Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yeah.
I like seeing Thunderbolt because there's not a lot of his matches online. So.
Yeah. Rick Brooks, was it out of Canada? I don't think so. No, I think it was out of New York, wasn't it? Yeah. The guy, Eddie Einhorn was out of New York, but he was running North Carolina, South Carolina, maybe even Georgia, maybe Savannah.
I remember the show playing in Atlanta, and I remember a lot of people like I said, Charlie Smith was on there. And I remember playing in Chattanooga, but they never promoted any live events coming up.
Now, a couple of them had to be done in towns that Thunderbolt Patterson was over. Now, we got to remember this because he was over in some towns that he would wrestle, and then others he wasn't. So it had to be. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I was. It almost came up right there.
We know it. It was quite delicious. We could taste it all the way over
not the
here.
Second time, but that's.
Ghost peppers are a killer.
ICW, that's International Championship Wrestling. Now, International Championship Wrestling, that was the Poffos. I'm pretty sure they were ICW, right?
I thought
it was international something. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, now that show wasn't too bad when you go back and watch it. It just was. Commentary can really hurt a television.
You're exactly right. It really can. It destroys it. Actually, that's the reason I watch most shows with the sound turned down.
I don't know. I didn't think the commentary was good. I thought they tried to do too much joking during it. So this is not the first time people thought it was going to be you could hit some comedy routine while you were doing the show. Hello, guys, from Rita Cantrell. How you doing, Rita? Oh, Paul asked this question to you, Jack. When you were starting out, did you keep your day job or did you commit fully to wrestling?
I had a 9-year run of a 24-year career that I wrestled full time, but it was more exhausting than having a full-time job. And so I had to pull back. I was always on the road, and when I was home, I was making wrestling gear 24/7 to sell. It was just nonstop.
So, in other words, he worked really hard. And if people think wrestling's going to be easy, you're crazy.
Yeah.
The trips are bad. That's the one thing that I don't think people understand. I don't know that the wrestlers today could take what the trips were. Monday, you would be in Birmingham, Alabama. Tuesday, you would be in Mobile, Alabama. Wednesday, you might be in a spot show or off somewhere. Thursday, Montgomery. Friday, in a spot show somewhere. Saturday, you do TV. Saturday night, you do Dothan. Sunday, you do Pensacola, Florida. Now, that was the easy territory.
For anybody that ever wondered about Josh, this is my Josh.
Hey, Josh.
He was the freight train sound a minute ago.
That's all right.
Hey, we're getting claps on this show today. We don't ever get any claps during this show. A couple of boos, but we don't get any claps during it. So,
well, he's mostly just throwing tennis shoes at me. So.
That's good. That's good.
Brian Griffin is with us. Came to Winston-Salem a lot. He said that ICW came to, or IWA came to Winston-Salem. Okay, so that's when Thunderbolt Patterson was probably over then.
Right.
That show sometimes confused me because I'm not for sure how long that show was on, but that show was a little something that was a little.
The thing that to me the thing that set the whole thing off is the ring announcer with the sunglasses.
Yes, that was. He wasn't allowed to do that. I tell you that.
He was a star.
Victor Nash says, "Hello, everyone. Hope you're okay. We're doing okay here. I think we're all doing great." Jason Amundi, didn't he own the Chicago White Sox? I believe you are right. I believe that is what he owned. He had some money, but he just did not have a plan and did not
direction.
This is the thing about wrestling. It's not enough just to have money. You also must have a plan and a direction to know where you're going. That's it, a goal. Kevin Finley. I asked Rodney who was the best commentators, Jack Reynolds, Tex Mckenzie, or Michael Coe.
Jack Reynolds and Michael Coe was a tremendous commentating tag team. Jack Reynolds was fine. Tex Mckenzie should stick. Okay, he should just. Okay, if the only thing they had for him is to announce, let him announce, I guess. But watching in those matches,
okay,
that's
let me ask
not
y'all
good.
this question. Did y'all ever see Bob Ellis wrestle?
Yes,
I have. Yeah,
he's on there. Yes.
Is he any good?
I thought he was pretty good.
He's on this IWA show for sure. But in this, like I said, it's scrambled eggs. There's no direction. It's he has no direction, and he did some interviews that made absolutely no sense, and that just goes with the lack of direction.
Well, I don't know that I saw him, but I did see Tex McKenzie.
He I think he wrestled, if I'm not mistaken, on the WWA with Dick the Bruiser, and he was pretty decent on there.
Now they did show some stuff from the Sheik's territory, and that was pretty good. It wasn't too bad at all. Daniel Lang said that Einhorn owned the Chicago Bulls and part of the White Sox. Did not know this. Mickey Mayfield can't say I even seen it. Would have loved to have watched Stampede though, but we didn't get into Georgia. A lot of Stampede stuff. A lot of Stampede stuff out there.
Yes.
So this Do YouTube search, but Stampede Wrestling, you'll see all kinds. I have actually got a bunch of tapes of Stampede Wrestling. What I did with them, I don't know. I have no clue. He said Tex Mckenzie. Yes, that was Tex Mckenzie. Boy, I'll tell you what, they were going to build up to a Tex Mckenzie Ox Baker match on this tape that I was watching.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done that.
I don't know about y'all. I wouldn't want to have seen that. I would have rather watched paint dry than have to see that match. That had to be horrible. And I'm pretty sure they showed it. That had to be horrible. Charles Bell Fowler said owned part of the White Sox at one time. Is Eddie? I guess Eddie Einhorn is no longer with us. I'm gathering he is no longer with us.
I will look.
It was Einhorn and Donald Trump that killed the USFL. I didn't even know that. Did Donald Trump had some? Did he have something to do with the USFL?
He did with the USFL. Sure did.
Yes, he passed away in 2016.
And Rick Brooks was talking about George Crybaby Buchanan, which was on this show. He was a part of this show. The show was kind of a scrambled egg thing. I think the Sheik must have had something to do with it as well, because a lot of stuff from the Sheik's territory was there. And by the way, that was some bad stuff too.
There's a reason why Georgia Championship Wrestling went up there and took over. Okay. He was doing great business.
Now, one time they had some pretty decent. Austin Idol was on one of the ones that I watched, and they beat up Dory Funk Jr. on television. Bulldog Don Kent, Kurt Von Hess, which they did have a good match with Dory Funk Jr. and some guy. I can't remember who the other guy was. They had a good match with him, but here was the clincher of this. They had a good match and they built it up pretty good, but then they turned around and had a Mark Lewin match against Kurt Von Hess and did the exact same thing. Just the exact same angle. The head just.
Or in our case, it's like watching Raw. They do the same thing every week as well.
Mark Lewin, by the way, was pretty decent at this point in time. He had not done all the stuff that he had done, and he was over too. I will have to admit.
Oh, yeah.
He was over during this point in time. Kevin said a record-breaking crowd. We're in Winston-Salem. I'm pretty sure it was. Kirk is with us. Hello, guys. Good to be back tuning in. Thank you so much, Kirk. We certainly do appreciate it. Adrian Harper is with us. How you doing? Shannon, Kathleen Moore. Good evening, gentlemen. There's some gentlemen somewhere around here.
We'll find them.
We'll find them and get back with you. Let's see. Roger Dunn says, does he need a reference? I guess he's talking about that guy.
Yeah.
Roger, are you a good reference for him? That's the question. That might hurt him more than it helps him. That's what we used to always say. Well, I know Austin Idol. Well, they didn't help you out any.
That's right.
That made it worse. Sorry, guys. Just checked in. How you doing, Richard?
I did a guy that way about somebody, and I said, well, that didn't help you at all, and it hurt his feelings.
You know what? I don't know where Michael Barr is. I noticed he is not.
He's here. He's here.
Oh, is he here? Okay.
He just checked in.
Yes.
He's out picking up cigars.
Yeah, you have to, Michael. You're coming late. We need to get Arn Anderson. I tried to contact Arn. He never would get back with you, which I don't think he wants to because he has his own little his little podcast. So he's telling all his stories on there. So Kevin said, do you guys remember a wrestler named Ronnie Horn? Jack?
Mm-mm.
You know, that does sound familiar.
Rodney?
No, I don't remember anybody named Ronnie Horn.
Colton, sorry, Jack. I had to ask about that. That came in twice for some reason. Jason Mundy, wrestlers running the show. Sounds like AEW. Hey, that's bad. It's not that the wrestlers and the wrestler should always have an input in what you're doing. But you have to be careful, because if you go, hey, Jack, you and Bobby are going to wrestle each other. All right, figure out what you want to do. There is a possibility the figuring out will be, I tell you what we'll do. You throw me over the top rope, get a disqualification. Peace. Well, I've heard it be said before. I've heard two guys get together and said, listen, we're going to have an easy match. I'll sell a little bit. I'll make a comeback on you. You will be going good. You get me. I'll hit the referee. I'll get disqualified. And it always runs that way when you let the wrestlers do it, because they never want to be beat. So at some point, people out there have to be winners and losers. If in football, no one ever won a game, and it was always a DQ or a time limit, man, nobody would watch it, because people want to see winners and losers. Terrence Hardy, Louis Martinez had power in the IWA, but he was wrestling. Now, he was one of the guys that was wrestling in this with Nelson Royal, I believe. And he was messing up everything Nelson Royal was trying to put together.
Thus, that's the reason he had the power. Because anybody else would have done that, Nelson would have stretched him.
Stuart.
And Nelson doesn't play, by the way. Nelson Royal does not play. All right, I'll just tell you right now. He doesn't play. He takes what he does very seriously.
Sunbelt Wrestling was terrible. Two guys missing drop kicks, and the other guy and the announcer still selling it terrible. Have y'all ever watched this Sunbelt Wrestling?
If it's the show I'm thinking about, it was on during the 70s, maybe early 80s. And it had a very short run, but I remember the heavyweight champion was some big fat guy, and his entire matches, every match, he would clothesline guys just repeatedly, right after another. You get up, you get clothesline. You get up, you get clothesline, and then he'd finally pin somebody. Come to find out, he was the promoter. And it was one of those morbid things. It's like watching a bad B movie. You know it's horrible, but you just can't take your eyes away from it.
I'm gonna have to look this up. I'm gonna have to look up and watch the Sunbelt Wrestling. I watched IWA, so if I can watch that, I can watch Sunbelt Wrestling. I'm thinking if I can watch the IWA, I should be able to watch AEW. Jeffrey, maybe the IWA should have paid performers half up front and half the day of the show. Well, let me ask you a question. We should have asked the guy. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll pay you half up front. And if you're horrible, you don't get paid the rest of it. How's that sound?
Well, half up front was still twice what he was worth. So, y'all know how big my cigars are? This guy was about 6 inches taller than my cigar.
Jack, will you book that guy for cigars?
That's him paying you. If he pays you, will you book him?
I'm sure they would be dry and probably blueberry flavored or something. I don't know.
Jeffrey said that the IWA was based out of Cleveland, Ohio. It followed the NWL, Johnny Powers promotion. Yes, I remember Johnny Powers. Did Johnny Powers have anything to do with this program? Because I'm telling you, this program was horrible.
Just the brief thing I looked up didn't mention Johnny Powers.
Maybe he just took over some of his markets. Mickey Mayfield, or was it after? Was Johnny Powers was after, right? Did I read that wrong? I thought Johnny Powers was after.
That's what he said. That's what he said.
Oh, that's what he said. Okay, all right. Because he took over after Eddie Einhorn, and he was just going to run up in the New Jersey area, and that didn't work out either. I remember an episode of ECW, and the first match started out, and the host show was it. It just kept changing combatants. Finally ended with Sabu and Van Dam. Just about every wrestler had a part in it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it makes sense. I mean, am I telling the truth? As long as it makes sense.
And that's not unusual for that show. I've watched ECW. Only had 3 matches for the entire hour. So no, it's not unusual at all. Sometimes 2.
What about Jack Brickhouse? Jack Brickhouse was in Chicago, wasn't he? Wasn't he a Chicago wrestling announcer? He came to WCW. Nobody knew who he was. Well, people in Chicago probably knew who he was, but
I don't remember him.
I remember hearing him, and I remember hearing his name. Old, maybe 50s and even 60s. He was in wrestling. He did wrestling commentary, but he also was on. It was a local personality and I'm pretty sure it was the Chicago area. I may be wrong about that. Victor Nash said the greatest commentator in the world or all time. I'm just adding things in there that you don't even say. Greatest commentator of all time, late Gordan Solie. Yes, I'll give Gordan Solie number 1. There's no doubt.
Yep.
Terrence Hardy said he saw Cowboy Ellis on the WWA. Well, Terrence, did you like him? Was he pretty good? I don't think I ever saw him.
Oh yeah, there's a great match with him against the Blackjacks. I forget was either with
that's
or Lanza. And he ended up beating both Blackjacks and Bobby Heenan in that particular match.
So was he good in that?
Yeah, people loved him.
Yep.
People loved him.
Kirk, I believe the IWA was going to attempt to go national. Yes, they were. At the time, then things fell apart. Well, I mean, it fell apart because it was horrible. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having bad matches, but when you continuously have them, you can have one match and go, okay, let's think about this for a minute. We've got to do better than this. This is horrible. But there's some people, there's some bookers out there, and we won't name no names. But there were some bookers that believed that everything they did was good. And it didn't matter how bad it was. And it didn't matter how bad it was drawing. It was still the greatest stuff. Well, you know what? The people just don't understand what I'm doing. They just don't understand my booking. I said, evidently not. They're not coming to the building. So, I think it was the promotions fault then. They just wasn't promoting it right. I think it might have been. IWA was out of North Carolina. Is where Bill Eadie wrestled as one of the Mongols. Yes, and that's how Tommy Young got to Jim Crockett Promotions through this company. So, Jason said Tex versus Ox, almost as good as Jack Brisco versus Harley Race.
Till the bell rang, yeah.
Ox Baker, tremendous talker. Man, he was great. But man, by that time, I don't know, was he? I mean, maybe at one time he was great, but by this time he did not need to be. Honestly, in 1979, he was teaming with the French Angel, which is Frank Morrell, in Southeastern Championship Wrestling, and they think that they didn't draw. They were thinking at that point in time we didn't draw because Ron Garvin and those people. No, that match just stunk up the place. That's the reason he wasn't drawing. It had nothing to do with Ron Garvin and all them people. Them matches were horrible. So you can blame Ron Garvin and them all you want, but you needed to watch those matches. We went there and said, man, them two guys need to be off that show.
Yeah, it was. And that was, for whatever reason, I'm thinking Crossville. I mean, Crossville, Tennessee at that boys club. And it was a disaster, absolute disaster. I mean, that ranked right up there with Kevin Sullivan and Steve Kern. I mean, it was a mitigated disaster. Almost as a mitigated. Another disaster I just watched was the cage match between the Midnight Rider and Lucifer. Another disaster.
Michael said Ox would blow up Tex Ticker with his heart punch. I don't think he kills people out of the heart punch. He just bores them to death is what he does to them. And that's what Ole Anderson told him one time. He said, no, you've never killed one wrestler for the heart punch. You have just bored them to death and they watched you wrestle and they just died after you did. Ole didn't care. Ole did not care. He was very mean to Oxpecker. So
Now I like Ox. I only got to work on a show with him one time, but he's very intimidating until you got to talk to him.
very nice man.
Oh,
Very
yeah,
funny
really
man.
nice.
What we had a problem is he really needed help in the ring.
Yep.
To get in. Maybe they should take the bottom rope down and let him
How
roll
old
in.
was he in 1979? He was because didn't he start wrestling in the 50s? Like the late 50s?
I would assume so, but it seemed like he was having major issues, maybe with his knees. He was not moving well at all. I mean, when we watch him with Ernie Ladd and the Riot, it's a much different Oxbaker than what we saw in Knoxville for sure.
Yes.
He would have been 40 in 1974.
So
yeah.
by 1979, he would have been about 46 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah,
was,
so
he was
his-
up there.
So his knees, back, possibly gone. And
Did he
career.
start in 1974?
Trying to see when he did start.
While you're looking at that, was hello to Michael. Michael, how you doing? We were all wondering where you were at.
He debuted in 64.
1964. So, I mean, he had been wrestling a long time, 64. So, I mean, that's a long time to have been wrestling to that point. So, which I don't know that he took any bumps. So, he must have hurt his knees.
Oh, did you watch the Midnight Rider versus Kevin Sullivan match? The Luther match? That was very similar.
I did not watch that. No, I did not watch that. I
don't
watch it, though.
Yeah, it's a cage match. 8 minutes. Cage match.
By the way,
longer to put the cage up than the good crowd though.
If you're going to have a cage match on your program, if you're going to book one in your towns, make sure it doesn't take longer to put the cage up than your match exists. That always kill your territory. We've been there many times.
Yes.
Southeastern Championship Wrestling in 1983. We went to Montgomery, Alabama. The main event, I don't remember who the main event was, but I remember it took about 20 minutes to put the cage up. They were in that thing for 5 minutes. And then they wonder why Montgomery was drawing 200 to 300 people. I wonder why. That is just, and by the way, folks, that was not Vince McMahon's fault. That was the promoter's fault for doing that. They didn't care nothing about their own company and have a 5-minute match in your main event after you put a cage up that took 20 minutes. So that was not Vince. Vince wasn't there. He didn't say, "Hey, pal, go there and put that cage up for 20 minutes and have a 5-minute match." He wasn't doing that. Vince McMahon wasn't doing that. So maybe that may be the problem. Timothy Truitt is with us. Said, love the show, guys. Thank you so much. Timothy
Tolliver.
Thank you. IWA stayed in Virginia, North Carolina, lost an antitrust lawsuit against Jim Crockett, I'm gathered. Wow.
Out of everybody you would want to jump on, Jim Crockett's not one of them.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, there would have been several others that might have been weaker, but Jim Crockett had a solid control over those Virginia in the Carolinas. And I'm talking about even they could compete all day long, and they're not going to even come close to his promotion.
No. Timothy said that they closed in 1978. But how many years, Timothy, how many years were they open? How many years did IWA try to run wrestling? Greg and Victoria Hodge. Hey. Fellas. How far are you guys from Lafayette, Georgia? You need to get to Lafayette, Georgia on Friday, October 8th. We're going to have a great time. Just have a good old time. Some old school wrestling in Lafayette, Georgia on Saturday, October 8th at the Recreation Center there. So make sure you get there. Michael Barr. Well, he just got home from the doctor. He's just, well, we hope you're okay, Michael. Victor
Why
Nash.
do I have a feeling that he had a trip to the proctologist?
IWA ran in 1975, and the way it looks, it doesn't say past 75, so I'm guessing a year.
Oh, so it only lasted a year. Well, I can see why. Arn Anderson and Brock Anderson will be teamed with Cody Rhodes. We're on AEW.
Yep.
Is Brock Anderson any good?
Yeah, this will be his debut.
They're letting him debut on AEW.
Yep.
And never have been on nationwide television before.
They've had him on there as far as being in the crowd and introducing him, but this will be his first match.
So it's not going to be Arn Anderson and Brock. It's just Brock Anderson.
No, Arn's going to be ringside.
Okay. May I suggest a steel cage?
Hey, they lower that thing now, don't they? They lower it. I don't think it takes.
Doesn't matter as long as Cody's in it. Anderson. That's all I say. There's a Rhodes and an Anderson in the cage.
Colton Martin, Jack, do you plan on making a second show near Talladega County?
We're working on something. I'm always working on something. For a guy with short sleeves, I've got a lot up my sleeve.
Yeah, Michael Barr said he went to the he said Sunbelt did not last long. He said did not run long. Mickey Maidfield, Glow was the worst wrestling show that I'd ever seen. I'm telling you, watch AEW. Glow it make Glow look like the WWF. I mean, I'm being honest with you. And I'm not saying they choreographed really what Glow Wrestling is, what Glow Wrestling was then was about what wrestling is today. And it's not really working today for mass audience. They're still doing pretty good. Now, I just recently saw that there's a show called Rebel that's on ABC or something. They canceled it because it got 2.4 million views. I mean, why would you cancel a show that has 2.4 million viewers watching it? And I'm thinking, ain't that pretty good in today's standards of television? It's just
I would
crazy.
think. But
It depends on how much it costs to make the show.
Well,
Katie Seagal, I would watch her chew gum. I mean, that's just. But I didn't watch the show because I just had a feeling like they would not stick with it and cancel it. And that's the reason I watch very few network shows. They just don't care.
Yep.
You know, if those ratings dip, you're out the door. They just leave the viewers hanging.
It was sad. It was a great show. Andy Garcia was on there, and I'm pretty sure he was being paid a lot of money. I'm pretty sure he did not come cheap. But great show, 2.4 million people, and they canceled. I kind of wondered now why TBS, when they moved, when AEW goes to TBS, how long will it be before they say, sorry?
Well, one thing, and we're getting off wrestling here a little bit, but shows that last at least a season and then get canceled, a lot of times if they have a pretty decent following, Netflix or somebody else will pick that up and continue the series for another few seasons.
I hope they do. Rebel was very good, by the way. And that's getting off wrestling. Rebel was a great show. I wondered why they knocked it down to 10 episodes. So Victor Nash said he was only worth a Dr. Pepper and a pickle, huh, Jack?
I would withhold the Dr. Pepper, honestly.
Gauntlet match, Glenn Allen Shelton. I think he's talking about the ECW match. Jeffrey Archer said that I think Johnny Powers came in at the end of the book. The IWA folded thereafter. That's never a good thing when the booker. But it wasn't his fault. It was dead before he got there. I wonder who was booking that. I wonder who was the booker. Michael Barr said the cigars are on the way. All right, Charles, he's going to tell us about Jack Brickhouse was the Cubs announcer in the 70s and 80s. And also he was he not also the wrestling commentator? And because I'm pretty sure he was at a certain time in Chicago. But Daniel Lang said that Jack Brisco announced for the Chicago Cubs for decades and did wrestling from the Marigold out of Chicago. Very good. If there is videos of this, and there's videos of him doing commentary, he was really good. He knew how to tell the story because he would tell the story. Commentators today, tell a story. They don't tell what's going on in the ring, basically. But he was good. He would tell you when he picks the man up for the body slam, goes way up high, slams him down hard. I mean, he explained it just to detail of what was going on. You didn't even have to watch the actual match. You could just sit there and listen to what he had to say. It was tremendous. I may be wrong, but wasn't the big Ernie Ladd heel turn was in a tag match with Bob Ellis? I believe it was. Yes, I believe it was. It was either that or Tex Mckenzie. It was one of the two.
I think it was Bob Ellis.
Ernie was great during this time. Ernie was so smart. Now, there was a match with Mil Mascaras and Beautiful Bruce. Ernie Ladd was at ringside. And Ernie, every chance he would get, he would go like he was going to climb into the ring, and the people would go nuts. And he did that so many times. He'd turn around, shut up, and he knew how to control that crowd. And every time he would get in there, they were upset that Mil Mascaras, which I don't think ever lost a match, by the way.
Yeah, he still has the belt.
I don't think he ever lost. Has he ever actually been beaten, Mil Mascaras?
I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he hadn't.
I don't think he wanted to do the job. I think he was the way before the Ultimate Warrior. There was a Mil Mascaras. Hi everyone. Joel Bateman, Rick Brooks, Lord Layton, commentated for the Sheik.
I saw him. He reached up. Sheik was still attacking his opponent after a match. He reached up there and slapped him. I thought that was interesting.
He wasn't going to go no heat on him. He's going to make the comeback for him. They confused us for the IWA. We were NWA at the time and was New Mid-South Wrestling NWA. I could see that happening because so much. Terrence Hardy, y'all should try to get Tommy Young. If he would come on the show, I'd love to talk to Tommy. It would be nice to talk to him. Michael Barr said, "Tell it like it is, Rodney."
As always.
Joel Bateman said never saw Alex Baker wrestle.
Fact is, nobody else has either.
That was so mean. True. Mickey Mayfield. Ox Baker was awesome live. Lots of kids were very scary when he has a ring. Yeah, he had a presence about him that he could sell that ticket to the matches. The only problem, long term, Ox Baker could maybe kill your territory.
He was an attraction.
Yeah. Johnny Valentine for the next wrestler 96. Yeah. Tomorrow night, number 96, we'll have Jack's. We'll know what his number 96, Rodney's 96, and my 96.
I will tell you, Glenn, he may or may not be on my list. But it could be, but maybe not.
Hey, Glenn said that he's a good-looking kid, that Brock Anderson.
He is. He looks just like a young Arn.
Timothy said that IWA 1975 to 1978. Said it was Eddie Einhorn and Pedro Martinez. Martinez. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm pretty sure Eddie's the one with the money, though, right? Pedro was just a wrestler that. Joel Bateman said, "I love Glow." I didn't like it. All them came to. Remember, Rodney, when they came to Birmingham? All the gorgeous ladies of wrestling came to Birmingham. And what was that guy's name? Dave McClain? Is that his name?
That's right.
He came up and said, "Hello there. I'm Dave McClain. It's good to see you." It's like, he's still on television? I mean, what's he doing? I figure he does that on TV, but is that the way he talks?
For me, Glow had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
It was the comedy that got me. And it was like from the producers of He Call. Here we have wrestling. Glow.
Yeah. Now, he's also the one behind WOW, Women of Wrestling. And that is just a great show.
Yeah, I don't think it's got comedy in it. I believe he did a little different, didn't he?
He still does characters, but not with the comedy the way that he did.
That was
and hopefully they may be coming back. I hope they are anyway.
Paul said, I agree with Jack regarding Kathleen. Katie.
Katie,
I don't even have a water in here I can drink. I can't get nothing out today. Terrence Hardy, ticket sales for upcoming WWE events are way down. WWE events, I can see that. Number one, their tickets are, ain't they like $75?
Yeah, I was seeing some at 120. I think front row is 500, 700. I mean, they're real expensive.
Man, ain't no way I could do that. Greg and it's a Dusty Rose may have been the booker.
They wished
he would have done a whole lot better job than whoever was booking it. I'm not for sure. The worst wrestling show I ever seen, Richard Hood said, was California back in the mid '80s. Don't tell Tom Pritchard he was there. All right, we're going to have to get off of here. Thank y'all so much. This show went pretty good. And to be honest with you, these shows we don't know what we're going to talk about. I just thought about the IWA when I was coming on the show. I just thought, man, I watched this thing, and I was good to see Thunderbolt though. I enjoyed watching Thunderbolt. Jack, anything that we need to talk about before we leave the program today?
ProWrestlingTees.com. Go and get your Pro Wrestling Inside and Out t-shirts.
Yes, and support the channel. Rodney, anything we need to talk about before we leave?
Jeffrey, the reason I can go ahead and call Lucifer Kevin Sullivan is because he was unmasked on television in this cage match. It was very exciting.
And you knew it was him because one of his high spots was the groin shot. So
yes, and there was one in that. Quite exciting. I'm sure drew a huge house next week.
By the way, if you want to be a supporter of the channel, it's very easy. Go to the Facebook page. We've got a lot of things coming up. It's going to be a little different. We're going to be doing stuff a little different coming up in the summertime. And so we're going to be talking about some things on our supporter channel that there's no way we're going to talk about it right here on this thing. So it's just some behind the scene things that went on. So make sure if you become a supporter that you get and support the channel there's a little thing that says become a supporter and support the channel, $2.99 a month. Also, again, write it down on your calendars for Friday, October the 8th, as Championship Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Inside and Out will present our first live show, old school wrestling, the way it should be.
Victor's going to stir it up tomorrow night. That's what he says. Victor Nash is going to stir it up, ruffle some feathers tomorrow night with his choice of number 96.
Is that a prelude to Coco Beware being nominated?
Or the Gobbledygoopler. I bet the Gobbledygoopler is number 96 on Victor Nash's. We'll see everyone tomorrow night right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. And for the supporters, we're going over there right now. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see everyone tomorrow night.